Stop right there. There is one day on the church's calendar. It comes once a year, always the Friday before Palm Sunday, when the entire kingdom of hell shakes, not from any battle fought by angels or saints, from the tears of a woman, not trembling, shaking, and most Catholics let that day pass without ever knowing what they had in their hands. Here is the mistake that almost every Catholic makes when Sorrowful Friday arrives. They look at images of Our Lady of Sorrows. They feel a little sadness in their chest. Maybe they say a quick prayer, and they move on. They treat it like a day of passive mourning, like a memorial, like a museum visit. That is a novice error, and the enemy is counting on you to keep making it, because Sorrowful Friday is not a day to sit and feel sorry for Mary. It is a day of war. It is the day the weapon was forged. And if you don't pick it up before Holy Week begins, you are walking into the most spiritually charged season of the year, completely unarmed. Listen to what the greatest exorcists in the history of the Church understood. What Padre Pio himself lived and breathed and preached until his hands bled. The devil does not simply dislike Our Lady's tears. He cannot stand them. Each tear she shed at the foot of that cross is like boiling acid on every spirit of division, ruin, and sickness that is trying to get into your home. Every single tear. And on Sorrowful Friday, those tears are available to you as a weapon. There is a practice, simple, ancient, almost forgotten, that the enemy has worked for decades to bury under layers of sentimentality and routine devotion. It's called the one candle ritual. And before this day is over, you're going to do it because your family needs you to. If you feel that your home, your marriage, or your children are under spiritual pressure, if something feels off and you can't explain it, write in the comments right now, Mother of Sorrows, cover my home with your tears. By writing that, you are not just commenting on a video. You are declaring out loud, in front of heaven and hell, that you refuse to let Sorrowful Friday pass without fighting back. Go write it. I'll wait. Now. Let me show you what this day really means, and why the enemy is desperate for you to finish watching this video and do absolutely nothing. There is a version of Catholic devotion that the enemy finds completely harmless. It looks like this. Beautiful prayers recited without thought, holy images hanging on walls that nobody looks at anymore, feast days acknowledged with a nod and forgotten by dinner. The enemy doesn't fight that kind of Catholicism. He encourages it, because a Catholic who feels religious but carries no spiritual authority is exactly what he wants walking through this world. But there is another kind of Catholic, the kind who actually understands what the 7 sorrows of Mary are. Not symbols, not poetic metaphors, weapons. Here is what the Church has always taught, and what the saints, especially Padre Pio, understood in their bones. Every sorrow Our Lady endured was not merely a wound. It was a crushing blow against the kingdom of darkness. When the sword passed through her heart at the presentation of Jesus in the temple, when she fled into Egypt in the dark of night, when she lost her 12-year-old son in Jerusalem and spent 3 days in agony, each one of those moments was a strike, a direct strike against the one who brought sin into the world. Padre Pio used to say that Mary did not weep out of weakness. She wept with the full knowledge of what her suffering was accomplishing. His cold, calloused hands would grip the rosary until his knuckles went white, and he would say, "She understood the battle better than any general who ever lived." Think about that. The woman standing at the foot of the cross, watching her son die, was not a passive victim. She was a soldier in the final hour of the most important battle in all of human history. Her tears were not surrender. They were the cost of victory. And once a year, when Sorrowful Friday arrives, those 7 wounds, those 7 crushing moments are laid out in front of you like a full arsenal. The theology here is precise, and it matters. When you invoke the 7 sorrows of Mary over your home, over your family, over a situation that feels impossible, you are not asking her to feel sad for you. You are calling down the spiritual authority that was purchased through each one of those specific moments of suffering. Division trying to break your marriage? The 3rd sorrow, losing the child Jesus, was specifically a sorrow of separation. That wound has power over every spirit that tries to tear apart what God has joined. Sickness pressing on someone in your family? The 4th sorrow, Mary carrying the cross alongside her dying son, holds authority over suffering that seems without end. Fear that has no name, the kind that wakes you up at 3 in the morning for no reason you can explain. The 1st sorrow, the prophecy of Simeon, the warning that a sword would pierce her own soul, was a sorrow of dread, of carrying something dark and certain before it arrives. She knows that feeling, and that wound has power over every spirit of anxiety and depression pressing on your mind. The enemy knows all of this. That is exactly why he has reduced this day to nothing more than a sad picture on a church wall. He wants you sentimental, not dangerous. Go find a candle, not a candle set, not an elaborate altar, one candle, a single flame. And if you have an image or a painting of Our Lady, any image, any version of her, place yourself in front of it. If you don't have one, hold the candle in both hands. That is all you need. What I'm about to walk you through is not a magic formula. It is not folk religion dressed up in Catholic language. This is a structured, intentional act of faith, the same kind of deliberate spiritual action the saints practiced. It has 3 steps. Each one matters. Do not skip. Step 1. The illumination of the threshold. Turn off every light in the room, all of them, and then light your one candle. That single flame in the darkness is not decoration, it is theology made visible. When every other disciple had fled, when Peter had denied, when the apostles were hiding behind locked doors, Mary remained, standing at the foot of the cross, refusing to leave her son, one light in total darkness. That is what you are declaring the moment you light that candle. You are saying, in this house, even when everything is dark, even when the enemy has flooded this family with confusion and fear and pressure, there is one light that will not go out. The faith of the Mother of God burns here. Hold that image in your mind when you strike the match. Don't rush it. Let the flame settle. Step 2, the invocation of the shield. Look directly at the flame, not at the image, not at the wall, at the flame, and then speak out loud, not in your head, with your voice in the air of that room. The enemy cannot read your thoughts, but he can hear your declaration. Speak with the authority of a child who knows the name of their mother. Speak like someone who has a right to what they are asking for, because you do. Say this: Mother of sorrows, by the sword that pierced your heart, pierce and destroy every trap the enemy has set in this home to ruin our Holy Week. Let your tears wash this house today. That is not a gentle request. That is a legal declaration before the courts of heaven. The enemy set those traps. She has the authority to destroy them. You are simply opening the door and letting her in. Step 3, the final strike. Do not blow out the candle. This is where most people would stop. The prayer is said, the moment feels complete, the temptation is to end it there. Don't. The ritual is not finished until the number is honored. Let the candle burn, and while it burns, pray exactly 7 Hail Marys, not 6, not 8, 7. 1 for each of the 7 sorrows. Each one is a blow. Each one lands somewhere in the spiritual architecture of your home, your family, the week ahead. When Padre Pio was asked why he prayed the 7 Sorrows Rosary so relentlessly, this lesser-known Crown of Mary that most Catholics have never even heard of, he said something that stopped the room cold. He said, "The enemy fears the tears of a mother more than he fears the sword of an archangel." Read that again, more than the sword of an archangel, because an archangel strikes with power. Mary strikes with love that has been tested by the worst possible suffering, and the enemy has no answer for that. He cannot corrupt it, he cannot imitate it, he can only flee from it. So, 7 Hail Marys while the candle burns, and with each one, name a person in your family, name a situation, name a room in your house if you feel something is wrong there. Be specific. Heaven responds to specificity. When you finish the 7th, let the candle continue burning for at least a few more minutes before you extinguish it. Sit in that silence. Let the weight of what just happened settle. You just activated the shield of tears over your home. Now here is the critical warning. What you built is real, but a shield with no maintenance has cracks. The enemy is patient. He will wait. He will look for the moment your spiritual life goes quiet, when the prayers get rushed, when the rosary goes untouched for weeks, and he will come back looking for the gap. The weapon that keeps Our Lady defending your door every single day of your life is the Holy Rosary, not as a routine, not as a checkbox, as a living daily act of war. Before I show you the truth that changes everything about how you carry that weapon, I want to make sure you already have it in your hands. I put together a complete manual for this, The Power of the Rosary with Padre Pio, Miracles, Protection, and Divine Graces. It includes Padre Pio's personal teachings on the Rosary, testimonies of miracles, a 30-day guide to praying with true devotion, and specific prayers for protection and healing. It is a small investment in your soul, the kind that pays dividends for the rest of your life. The link is pinned in the comments. Click it right now before you keep watching. Get the weapon in your hands first, then come back. A woman named Carol, a mother of 3 in rural Pennsylvania, sent us a message last winter. She didn't write much, just a few lines. She said she'd been carrying what she called a heaviness in the house for nearly 2 years. Her words, not mine. Arguments that started from nothing and ended with doors slamming, a feeling she described as something watching from the corner of the living room. Her youngest had stopped sleeping through the night. Her husband had started staying at work later and later without a reason either of them could name out loud. She had tried everything she knew. She went to confession. She had the priest bless the house. She prayed a novena. The heaviness stayed. On Sorrowful Friday of that year, she lit a candle in her kitchen and prayed the 7 Hail Marys, one for each of her children, her husband, her mother, her marriage, and her home. She said she felt nothing dramatic, no warmth, no peace, no clear sign. She went to bed unsure if anything had changed. 3 days later, on Easter Sunday morning, her husband came downstairs before anyone else was awake, sat at the kitchen table and told her he was sorry. He didn't specify for what. She didn't ask. They sat there together in the quiet for a long time. She ended her message with 5 words. The candle was the turning point. The enemy does not announce himself when he leaves. He doesn't slam the door. He just quietly withdraws when he encounters something he cannot fight. And a mother, a real mother, standing in her kitchen in the dark, invoking the authority of the Mother of God, is something the enemy cannot fight. There is nothing complicated about what Carol did. There is no secret knowledge required. What she had was this. She took the day seriously. She didn't let Sorrowful Friday pass like just another Friday. She picked up the weapon. That is all that is being asked of you. The Church does not celebrate suffering for its own sake. That is a misunderstanding that has kept many Catholics at a cold distance from devotions like this one. It sounds on the surface like an invitation to wallow, to meditate on pain, to sit inside grief until it swallows you. That is not what is happening here. What is happening here is something far more precise, far more dangerous to the enemy. The theological principle at the heart of Sorrowful Friday is called co-redemption, not redemption. That belongs to Christ alone. Co-redemption. The participation of Mary, uniquely and without parallel, in the suffering that purchased our freedom. Pope John Paul II wrote about this with extraordinary clarity, that Mary's suffering beneath the cross was not accidental, not merely the natural anguish of a grieving mother. It was a participation, a willed, conscious, spiritual joining of herself to the sacrifice of her Son. She didn't just watch, she offered, and what is offered in love through suffering for the sake of souls. That is what the enemy cannot touch, cannot twist, cannot turn against you. Padre Pio understood this at a level that most theologians only read about. He lived it. For 50 years, the wounds of Christ bled in his hands. He knew what it meant to carry suffering that was not accidental. He used to tell his spiritual children, quietly in the confessional, in the fog of early morning before the crowds arrived, run to her sorrows, not because suffering is beautiful, but because her sorrows already won. Already won. Now understand what that means for the 7 specific wounds. The first sorrow, Simeon's prophecy, purchased authority over every spirit of dread and anticipatory fear. The second, the flight into Egypt, over every sudden upheaval, every family forced out of stability into the unknown. The third, the 3 days of losing Jesus in Jerusalem, over every separation, every child who has walked away from the faith, every relationship broken by silence. The fourth, meeting Jesus on the road to Calvary, over suffering that has no visible end. The fifth, standing at the foot of the cross, over every moment of total helplessness when there is nothing left to do but stay. The sixth, receiving the body of her dead son in her arms, over grief that has already happened, the wounds that have already landed. The seventh, the burial, over endings, over despair, over the moments when even hope feels like a lie. 7 sorrows, 7 weapons, forged in the worst suffering any human being has ever endured, and every single one of them is available to you, every year when this day arrives, and every day after it, through the Rosary. The tears of Mary are not a symbol of loss. They are a certificate of ownership, a deed to a territory the enemy has been illegally occupying in your life. When Sorrowful Friday comes to your door, that deed is laid out on the table in front of you. Pick it up. The ritual you performed, the 1 candle, the declaration, the 7 Hail Marys, is not the end. It is the door opening, what you have access to every day, through the Rosary, through the 7 sorrows, through the daily choice to stand with the woman who refused to leave her son. That is a lifetime of warfare the enemy cannot win against you. She didn't run. She will not run from your situation either. But you have to call her name. Once a year, this window opens. It opens on the Friday before Palm Sunday, quietly, without fanfare, without the world noticing, and it closes just as quietly when the day ends. Most people walk right past it. They feel a little sad, say a quick prayer and keep moving, but some people stop. Some people look at what is actually being offered, and they take it. The enemy is not afraid of good intentions. He is not afraid of Catholics who plan to do something spiritual later. He is afraid of the ones who do it now, in the dark, in their kitchen, with shaking hands and a heart that doesn't feel worthy, but does it anyway. You don't have to feel worthy. Mary didn't choose her suffering because she felt ready. She stood at that cross because she refused to leave her son. That is the only qualification required. You love your family. You know something is not right. You feel the pressure, the slow erosion of peace, the arguments that come from nowhere, the children who are drifting, the marriage that has gone cold, the weight that sits on your chest at 3 in the morning. That is not coincidence. That is a house that needs the shield of tears raised over it. Go light the candle. Go through the 3 steps. Speak the declaration out loud. Pray the 7 Hail Marys by name, 1 for each person you love. Let the flame burn in the silence when you're done. And then, if you have not already done it, go to the pinned comment and get the ebook. The Power of the Rosary with Padre Pio, Miracles, Protection and Divine Graces. because what you started needs to be maintained. The 30-day guide inside will show you exactly how to keep the shield up, day by day, prayer by prayer, so the enemy never finds the gap he is looking for. This is not about feeling spiritual. This is about protecting your family during the most spiritually charged season of the entire year. The enemy knows what week is coming. He is already moving. The question is whether you are going to move first. You found this video. That was not an accident. You watched all the way to this moment. That was not an accident either. Our Lady of Sorrows is not waiting for you to be perfect. She is waiting for you to be present, to show up, to light one candle in the dark and refuse, out loud, with your voice in the air of your home, to let this day pass without fighting for your family. The candle is waiting. Go light it. She's already there. God bless you.